Good morning, YouTube. How's it rocking? Welcome into Attacking Third. Thanks for hanging with us. Sandra Herrera, Christine Cupo. I'm Lisa Carlin. If you're with us live on YouTube, like this video, subscribe. We have an awesome show planned for you today. We do a little bit of mailbag. So if you have questions for us, hit us up in the chat. You have to be subscribed, but there's combos in theirs. But ask us your questions, anything you want to know. Good morning, guys. Sandra, how are you? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, gang. Let's close it out. Let's close it out.
Right
let's close it out strong. Listen, I had a little bit of an off day yesterday. It was nice to feel that for the first time in what felt like forever. And I took myself to go see Wicked, and I loved it.
I haven't had a chance yet. I'm so jealous. I've been running around singing Popular, though, to everyone I've seen in the last week.
It's a little long, but enjoy it.
And it's only part one. Sandra, well, you have full permission. Well, not that we have rules here anyway. Full permission to break out into song at any point during today's episode.
Noted.
So guys, stay tuned because Sandra might do that. Plus, we have an awesome A3 with you. We're about to start it right now. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome into Attacking Third Thursday episode, and we have great topics on deck for you. We are recapping Alyssa Naeher, the legendary U.S. Women's National Team goalkeeper and her career. We're going to talk about some NWSL offseason, what teams need to build. Of course, we have a mailbag, so any questions you ask us, we get to answer. And then, in case you missed it, alongside Sandra Herrera and Christine Cupo, I'm Lisa Carlin. Sandra and Christine, we are at this time of year where Spotify Wrapped has dropped. And everyone's putting them out there. Do you guys do that? Do you participate? And if you do, what's your top artist? Christine, I'm going to you first. I feel like you participate in Spotify Wrapped.
Yeah, I do. You know what? It's funny because I haven't had a chance to run my Spotify Wrapped yet, but I have been a Spotify premium subscriber from like day uno. So Spotify should just sponsor my life at this point because I have been keeping them in probably the fanciest dancing shoes. But usually, I mean, I'm pretty predictable, man. I listen to a lot of hip hop, a lot of R&B, a lot of reggaeton. For the last couple of years, like Bad Bunny has been like a mainstay on my charts. I'm hoping that since the Kendrick and Drake beef, Drake's fallen out of my Spotify Wrapped, or I'm going to be embarrassed as hell. That man said, Kendrick beat me up. I'm calling my lawyer. I can't have him in my Spotify Wrapped, man. I'll lose all my street cred.
Sandra,
yeah, that's
what
my
about
vibe.
you, Sandra?
I'm over here like no A3 going on in there. Cupo.
No, of course there is, man. But like, I also am not big on pods. So like, of course, A3 will be in there. It's usually A3 and what's the other one?
No one else. Just us. Maybe call it what you want. We can give a shout out to
a little shout out.
Other CBS Sports.
Yeah, Big Chuck, Big Tones. Yeah.
I'm with Cupo though. I have not done my Spotify rollout yet. I also listen to a lot of stuff on Apple Music, so I'm sure they're gonna do an end of the year thing. But I don't know, man. Maybe that says a little bit about us, Cupo. Like maybe it's kind of like predictable, like the rollouts at the end of the year. I'm like, I kind of knew it was gonna be there. I'm just thinking back to last year, same thing. It was a lot of Bad Bunny, a lot of Peso Pluma that was on there for me.
I love Peso Pluma. Like that. Yeah.
Sprinkling of like Selena was in there. Tina Turner was in there like a lot of times.
I love that.
And of course, a little bit of A3.
Of course. Well, after yesterday, Sandra, she saw Wicked. Everyone, spoiler alert. It's gonna be
now that's what's gonna be on for next year.
I haven't done mine yet. I haven't officially watched it yet, but I already know who's gonna
Taylor Swift. The top 5. Like literally, it's just a sweep.
You don't drop an album with 30 plus songs and not expect to be the top of my Spotify. I'll let you know what point percentage of her listeners I am.
So that's like what? Like you're just grinding through like the hippity dippity Dead Poets, whatever at this point?
Dead Poets, whatever.
Do you dip back into her prior catalog?
I cannot with this. I can't, Christine.
What's your favorite? Okay. What's your Taylor Swift banger? What's your number one song?
I don't know. I have to look at my Spotify. I'll let you know.
Right.
I'll post
We'll
it.
find out.
I'll let you know.
We'll find out. Follow up on Monday.
We'll let you know. But anyone listening to this currently on Spotify right now, let us know you're wrapped. If Attacking Third is in your top 5, top 1, let us know. Tag us on socials at Attacking Third and post it because I want to see.
Yo, Beach Dog Scout, I'm with you. Like, that's not aging you, Stevie Nicks. I've been absolutely cranking. Like, yeah, no, like Chain, I'm more, Fleetwood Mac is God tier.
Yeah, it's a lot of legends that we get to see. Legendary music, legendary artists in our Spotify Wrapped. And now we have to talk about a legend in her own right. Alyssa Naeher, U.S. Women's National Team goalkeeper for over a decade, 2 Women's World Cup champions, 2-time Olympian winning gold and bronze. She ends her international career with 3rd all-time in U.S. Women's National Team in caps at 115, starts 112, and wins 90 and shutouts 69. An absolute legend. We got to say goodbye to her in her final game with the U.S. against the Netherlands just a few days ago. We talked about her and her game and her legacy, but now we're going to look at her, a big picture for Alyssa Naeher. Sandra, you wrote an article on her. Go check it out, cbssports.com. But when you think about this player as who she is overall, Sandra, what is one moment in Alyssa Naeher's international career that stands out to you amongst all others?
Yeah, there's so many, right? I love a ranking. So of course, like we had some fun and she's got so many moments to choose from. So went ahead and did a little bit of a ranking of those type of moments on the major international stage, because gotta remind everybody, simmer down just a little bit. She's retiring from the international stage. She's still gonna be playing in NWSL, so folks can get a chance to still get their fix on Alyssa Naeher. But when I think of so many, maybe there's a little bit of recency bias in this when we're looking back at the World Cups that she was part of. But I thought that save in the 2019 World Cup in the semifinal against England was so top tier. It was so iconic. I think for me, that was the naysayer type of save, because I will never forget all of the ridiculous, because they are now ridiculous narratives around Naeher's starting position in 2019. There were all of these conversations about pressure, that there's a pressure cooker, that this is a keeper that maybe is a little unproven on these major international stages. Is she going to be able to handle that pressure? We found out after the World Cup that she navigated that World Cup without any sort of social media apps on her phone, that she finally turned her phone on at one point because she was just tuning out all of the noise because there was just so much. And so to not only come up with such a massive save in a World Cup, but to do it during a semifinal against England, who were also trying to make a bit of history of their own. Huge moment for Alyssa, and for me, defining as like, this is who your starting goalkeeper is, has been, and will be for the foreseeable future.
Sandra, I don't know if you know this, but you said in there a naysayer moment, and her name is Naeher. It was incredibly punny. Well done. Well done, my friend. Incredible job. Christine, what about you? Top moments from Alyssa Naeher's international career?
There's so many, because I feel like Alyssa, we've had the luxury of like Alyssa Naeher double saves, the ones that you didn't think she'd be able to scoop and grab. But also just being like that quiet menace in between the posts. I honestly have to say that one of my favorite things about Alyssa Naeher, just outside of her play and her skill and her ability to lock in, is her as a person, the way that she's been a leader to so many generations of players at this point. And I feel like that was emblematic, culminating with this last friendly against Netherlands, where there's now that iconic photo where she's holding space for both Soph and Trinity, her accepting hugs. And like, I think that seeing that side of her, that's like just humanized her on the back end, when you know that she's just this absolutely ruthless competitor. God, that makes me miss her more. And I know we do have her in NWSL, which we're very lucky for, but big mitts to fill.
For Alyssa Naeher, one of the biggest moments that stands out to me is the 2023 World Cup shootout versus Sweden. I will stand by Alyssa Naeher in this one, saying that she saved that penalty kick. It was insane because she makes the initial save on the ball and it pops straight up in the air. Listen to how I'm saying that. Straight up in the air after she makes the initial save. She then lunges sideways, a little bit backwards, because it looks as if it's going to go in the goal, and she smacks it out and she saves it. She's laying on the ground and she saves it. The very famous quote from her comes from it saying, we just lost the FIFA Women's World Cup by a millimeter, because ultimately VAR determined that it was a goal for Sweden, and Sweden advanced 5-4 on penalties. And that was a World Cup where there was a lot of pressure on the US and a lot of pressure on this team, because could they three-peat? Could they do it a third time? And Alyssa Naeher was one of the players that was consistently showing that she was above all else and above and beyond. She then, in that same World Cup, became the only goalkeeper, man or woman, to ever take and score a penalty in a World Cup. And we had seen that from Alyssa Naeher in the CONCACAF W Gold Cup semifinal a couple months before. She took and scored a penalty, and then in the She Believes Cup right before the Olympics, again this past summer, against Canada, she makes this massive save in goal. She steps up and she buries her own penalty kick, and then she saves another one. So the fact that she is so talented yet so humble, I mean, those two moments for me, saving the Sweden penalty, and then the fact that she has been able to step up and convert as well as save penalties in the same string of penalty shootouts, to me is electric. I mean, she's done so much, Sandra. She's done so much. And you rank them all. What did you do in your article? Give us a plug. How can we read it? What should we look forward to?
I definitely included that moment. We'll just say that. I definitely included that moment because it was a huge one. And I'm with you, Lise. I think we all were watching that with bated breath. Like, of course, Alyssa Naeher got that. But apparently
it is holding the ball. And,
oh my goodness.
The Swedish goalkeeper is trying to like give her a high five to be like, hey, good game. Congratulations. And she's just standing there like, no.
The final second. No. Yep. Yeah. Look, I guess goal line technology is not a fan of Alyssa Naeher, and that's what we have to deal with. I hate it. But I'm with you. It changed her. It changed her up here a little bit. We saw her go off out of 2023 on an incredible run in 2024.
Absolutely. So go read Sandra's article. There's a lot more moments in there and things that really encapsulate the entirety of Alyssa Naeher's international career. We say goodbye to an absolute legend, but hey, you can still watch her in NWSL in Chicago in 2025. Get your tickets, do all the things, go out to see a game, buy a jersey, do all the stuff for Alyssa Naeher, because she's still here. And go read Sandra's article, cbssports.com, all about Alyssa Naeher. Don't go anywhere, guys. We are talking NWSL, the off season, and what teams can do to bulk up before 2025. Welcome back to Attacking Third. This is the NWSL offseason right now. So it is meant for trades, signings, hirings, firings, all the things. And we're going to cover it all here on Attacking Third, of course, as we always do. But for the next little bit in this offseason, we are going to go through each individual NWSL club and determine what they need to be at the top of the table at the end of 2025, because there are some teams that need a whole lot, and there are some other teams that just need to stay status quo. So we are going to dive into all of them. And we figured what better place to start than the bottom? I don't know. I think this was a good place to start at the bottom. Houston Dash, they finished 2024 dead last in the NWSL. Number 14 out of number 14. They finished with 20 points, 5 wins, 5 draws, 16 losses, a goal differential of -22. It was a lot going on with that team. They lost their head coach in the middle of the season. They lost their GM. Alex Singer parted ways with the clubs in July. They lost a franchise player in forward Maria Sanchez, who went to San Diego very early in that. They also lost CC Kaiser, who left to go to Gotham. They did add in some players in 2024, defenders Paige Nielsen and defender Brazilian international Tarciane, which, hello, that's what they needed. They had center mids playing in their center back position. But now, as we look at this offseason, Houston currently has 11 free agents on their rosters, players that aren't set to return next year unless something changes. They also have just parted ways with their interim head coach, Ricky Clark. And now we look at Now we look at what this Houston side can do to move forward. They did just sign free agent midfielder Delaney Sheehan through 2026 with a mutual option. But Sandra, what else? What is this Houston team missing, or why were they so bad last year?
Oh boy, we don't have. Like that's a loaded question, and B, we do not have enough time. I think there's this strange feeling around Houston where it's just like we want to see this team succeed so badly. And I think you can look at certain points of their history and note that. Like there was a lot of excitement around this team coming out of that inaugural 2020 Challenge Cup win. We're like, yes, maybe this is the catalyst to kind of go ahead and propel them forward. They took a little bit of a dip, but they found themselves in, making their first ever postseason. It's like, yes, excitement around that, but there's been so much just unstable culture around this franchise that you can't really look in one area and say, this is where the problem is, or this is where it needs to get resolved, because it's such a wide spectrum. And I think for a lot of people, it's not so much the roster of talent, but it really is maybe from the top down. I think when you really speak to people who are invested in the Dash, who are, whether they're, just season ticket holders or longtime supporters, they want to see this franchise clean house. So, I mean, we're talking from club presidents to GMs, head coaches. These are things that they want and or need. So as far as what's going to happen in front of them, they technically have their club president right now in O'Neill, but who is going to be that general manager? Are they going to operate and navigate in this off season and then just go ahead and give that permanent GM tag to their interim GM at the moment? They recently said farewell. Thank you for your service, Ricky Clark. So now they have to go ahead and hire a head coach. But is that going to be a hire from their interim GM? So that's what's a little bit peculiar about the situation, that there's like substitute teachers constantly in these roles who have to define what it is for Houston moving forward. And I think it's a little bit backwards. If you're constantly having whether it's a carousel of coaches or at this point a carousel of executives, how are you ever able to establish whatever type of culture that you want to establish for Houston? And I think that is what has been most troubling for this franchise, is that when it came to Houston, you never really could point out or signal or define what their culture is. And you would hear it sometime from players where they would say like this thing like, oh, same old Dash, and kind of maybe try to use that as like a rally cry. And yet at the same time, that's actually quite sad that like that is what your players are trying to latch onto and hold on to and kind of use that as a motivating factor. So there's a lot of things here. And like I said, we've only got X amount of minutes to run this down. So thanks for teeing me up first, I guess.
Christy, what about you when you think about this Houston team, especially in 2024?
One, I think it's really generous of you, Lisa, to say that they lost their coach mid-season, because in all reality, Fran Alonso was gone after a few matches, unofficially. I think that already put them in a completely horrific position, and it continued to spin out from there. We saw them start the season with like makeshift back line due to injuries already. They repaired some of those issues. We saw the late signing of Zoe Matthews, who's super young, who debuted in October, which I think if that's an indication of where the Dash are thinking, like, go younger, move forward. Like, that's great. But if they don't fix all of the issues in the front office, I fear they're going to end up in the same just like echo chamber loop of hell that's been there. It's not going to be a destination for players at all, especially now that the draft is gone. You don't have to force anybody into those spaces that, how do you lure talent when, you haven't been a place that's been particularly great for any players? We saw Maria Sanchez arrival and immediate run from the club, which I think that was indicative of a lot of stuff that we didn't know was going on that early on this past season. I think they need to reinvigorate the whole squad. And also, like, maybe this isn't a hot take, but if the barrier for entry for expansion sides continues to rise higher and higher to make it harder to qualify, and there's many teams that want in the league, then there should be that level of expectation, if not the fear or at least threat of a fine for teams that don't continue to maintain their teams in various measures should be in place.
Yeah, interesting. That's a very interesting take on it. There's also this, this is like opening up a whole other conversation, but teams that want to be expansion teams, like, can you buy out another franchise and relocate?
Right. There should be, that's a conversation that should be starting. Because if you're not doing a service to your fan base, to your community, to your club, the bare minimum standards should be maintained. And barring that, it should open up a broader conversation where, hey, a Denver wants in, a Cincinnati wants in, a Cleveland wants in. Who's more deserving? Like Austin, Soccer City, Atlanta, Soccer City. There's too many sort of people gathering around just because women's soccer is now a great investment opportunity. You know what? Give them the opportunity. If you can't hack it, and we see this revolving door of investors, even for Houston, nobody seems to be taking this franchise seriously. The league deserves better, and it should demand better.
One of the things that our co-host on A3, Darian Jenkins, says a lot about Houston is that this field is one of the best fields in NWSL. She loves it. She loved playing there as a player, but the environment didn't necessarily match the field. I'm literally just going to say the field because it is so good. And that's one of the issues. Even when you think about 2024 at Houston Dash, they had what felt like good pieces in place. Of course, some injuries come up. A lot of players were out on maternity leave, I think like 2 or 3 from Houston. So that obviously changes your roster. But then you bring in a head coach like Fran Alonso, and I don't think he's a bad coach. He knows football. He understands tactics. However, he didn't know the NWSL. He didn't know it at all. And he was trying to implement a system, especially at the start of this season, with players that it didn't necessarily fit a 3-back and saying, we're going to stick with this until we get it right. You can't do that if you don't have the right personnel in those positions to absolutely dominate in a 3-back. Plus, NWSL is so transitional, and you have to be ready for that. He was a little bit too stubborn in his coaching tactics and what he wanted to do, not necessarily playing with the cards he was dealt, meaning the players that were available week in and week out to play the game, putting them in the best positions to succeed. There are a lot of free agents right now in the NWSL, and we are going to continue to talk about them through this offseason and even a little bit more in this episode. But Houston Dash needs to take a serious look at those free agents and try to get some of them. Now, that's an impossible task when you don't have a head coach. As a player, I'm not sure I would want to go somewhere where I have no idea the style of play, the
Hell no.
along with them. They also don't even have a full-time GM that can offer distinct contracts and say, this is what we can guarantee you and promise you in a contract. Now, they've already got Delaney Sheehan. That's a huge get for their midfield, because prior, when we knew we were going to have this conversation, the midfield was the biggest section of the pitch for me that Houston needed to shore up. And now they've done that with Delaney Sheehan. In a perfect world for me, Houston Dash would also pick up free agent Kristen Hamilton, a forward who has been at Kansas City. She didn't play a lot this year. She did not get a lot of time just due to the personnel around her. She's a veteran. She has a winning legacy. She understands how to play. Her, along with the Yuki Nagasato, I think they could work really well together. Plus, you've got Delaney Sheehan in the midfield. I also think a young defender in Sam Hyatt out of Gotham could sure up this Houston side.
I think that's a really good shout, actually. Yeah.
There's a lot of free agents out there that could work really well in Houston, especially Sam Hyatt and Delaney. They know each other from Gotham, and then they have played together. Hyatt only got a couple minutes this year, a couple games specifically in Summer Cup. It wasn't enough. But if you put her alongside Paige Nielsen, Natalie Jacobs, who I believe is a free agent at Houston, there are a lot of veteran defenders that could help Sam Hyatt along and give them a little stability. I'm glad you guys like my shouts.
For me, Delaney is a massive pickup. I think, in my opinion, probably one of the top midfielders on the free agent list this year. So the fact that they went out and got Sheehan, on a contract, I think is huge for Houston. And I think there's plenty out there that they can continue to do. But there's a part of me here, Lise, where I'm like, I'm done with Houston and talking about putting it on the players and like which players it's going to be and which ones should they get to make things better. Because we saw a little bit of that even in this season where they went out and got Tarciani, they got Paige Nielsen. Again, good players to plug into positions that they knew they needed help in. So they're capable of doing that. They can find players with a certain level of talent to try to put things together. But for me, I think this franchise is way too far gone.
What's the pull then, Sandra? Why are players like Paige Nielsen, top of her game, excellent defender, living in LA, a team that she moved across the country for? Why did she go there? Why is someone like Delaney Sheehan, who has won a championship with Gotham, why is she going to Houston? What's the pull?
If Houston has nothing else going for it, it's got the ability to spend. And that's all I'll say on that. And I'm not saying that sometimes for some players, it's about a couple of things. And it's about making sure that you get a contract that you feel is worthy enough of your talents. And sometimes it's that number one combination with getting time on the field. And if there's something that Houston can offer players, it's money on a contract. And you will probably play for us because we are at our wits' end on how to figure things out here.
You're going to play because we're terrible.
And so if I'm a player that's looking for a new contract with new money and I'm going to be because you can't actually guarantee minutes to any player, but semi-guaranteed that there's going to be a starting role for you on this team, yeah, sure, why not? Sign me up. We'll see how it happens.
Yeah, I feel like
give it a year or two and let's see how it goes.
I feel like I haven't had
gave it 1 year.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
I feel like I haven't actually gotten the opportunity to watch the off season, but for social clips in terms of Paige Nielsen and like events that foreshadowed terrible events that like popped out later was like her talking about like Angel City and like hoping, I hope I don't get traded. I hope. And it's like of all the places for her to end up. Yeah. It's got to be the bag. And
the energy around that too was not like a happy trade. Like it seemed
and that's what I'm saying. Like they're reluctant trades. You don't want to leave where you're at, but it's like, I need to take the money. And also I think that it's like the fear of like, I don't want this to go. Like, am I going to be able to sign somewhere else?
I'm pretty sure that Maria Sanchez bought a house in Houston.
Yes.
Before she was
none of it.
Dude, it's got to be bad for you to buy real estate and then be like, yo, I got to be so out of here. Give me a month.
That's my point. None of it matters. It doesn't matter the money and the contract that you're giving the players if they don't want to stay.
Maria Sanchez said, I'll be a landlord.
Figure it out.
CC Kaiser was there for 6 months.
It's not going to exactly. It doesn't matter who you bring in.
And now
if the players don't want to stay.
And now with the new CBA in place in the NWSL with guaranteed contracts, players can go there, sign a huge contract, and then say, I want to trade. I want to get out of here. And their next club has to pay that contract. They have to be paid out because it's a guaranteed contract.
It doesn't matter who they bring. That's my point, Lisa. We're like, let's go to the free agent list.
Yeah. I feel like, we're all in agreement.
Change things. Who are players that can change
it? It needs to be front office and everything else before we discuss players because they have so many things going wrong that no player is going to be like the savior of this side.
It doesn't.
Exactly. And that is setting players up for failure if that is how folks are looking at it. You are setting players up for failure if the concept is this franchise is on a lifeline. Let's get some players in here and they'll change it up. And then you have no plan for them to succeed.
You don't even have a coach. You don't even have a coach.
I need to console new account now real quick and just say, I know that you're really sad as a Dash fan, but like the glass is half full because like, it can't get worse.
Only up from
the sky's the limit, baby.
Once upon a time in this league, once upon a time in this league, if you were a franchise that came in and you had MLS affiliate type resources, you were viewed as a type of franchise that had it together. And here we are in the new world, new look, new feel NWSL, post-pandemic, post 2 CBAs, and that is no longer the case.
No.
You've got to keep up. You've got to keep up.
Wow. Okay, this conversation was electric. It took a left turn as well. Let us know your thoughts on Houston Dash. What can they do? What's a simple fix for this Houston Dash side to turn it around for next season? Well, you guys have asked us a lot of questions throughout the year, throughout the last couple of weeks, throughout even today on this chat. We get to answer them next in our mailbag segment. Stick with us. Ding dong, mail's here. I had to do it again. Welcome back.
What mailman is ringing a doorbell at this point? Is this certified mail? Do I have to sign for this?
Lisa's mailman is.
I don't know how to do like a mail going through a mail slot sound effect just with my voice and whoosh. That's like the mail or whatever. Okay, it doesn't matter, guys. A3 Mailbag is here. We are talking and answering all your questions that you've submitted for us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have questions for us at Attacking Third that you want us to answer, let us know at Attacking Third on socials. Hit us up in the YouTube chat, in the comments on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, anywhere. Hit us up. Our producer Mark does a great job of gathering them all. So thank you. Let's get into it. First question comes from @Laura Hoorah. That's what I'm going to go with. All right. She says, with more expansion teams on their way, do you think the NWSL would ever cap how many new teams are added? If so, how many is too many? Currently, NWSL is at 14 NWSL clubs, guaranteed 2 more to come by 2026, which would make the total 16. Christine, how many is too many teams?
Oh, I have actually a lot of feelings about this. I also have some empirical evidence there's been discussion, right? There's a lot of leagues internationally, domestically, which have typically, right, like a 20-team league, which there's been conversations in recent years about reducing that because the competition levels are there's such a disparity between the top of the table and the bottom of the table. I think that with careful, slow, calculated expansion, things could be really, really great. But I think that in light of our last conversation about the Houston Dash, we need to evaluate the teams that are already still in the league. They need to be able to make certain advancements to maintain their sides before we start considering adding additional teams beyond that. I think that a 16-team league is reasonable. I think that as you grow beyond that, it changes the dialogue. You have to look at different playoff formats, how you're looking at sort of divisions and things like that of that nature. Also, just the ever expanding fixture schedules and the wear and tear on players as we look to, not just club play, but international play and the reasonable ability for players to withstand that.
Do you have a cap, Christine? Do you have a number that we should not go above in the NWSL for teams?
Oh, I think the absolute max ceiling, I think would be 20, but I think that should take time to arrive there. I think that the rate that we're seeing things turn over now, where you have 4 or 5 cities trying to bid simultaneously, I think we need to reevaluate that. And it should be like maybe 1 more team added per season, and it should be harder to gain entry. And that's not a slight on the fan.
Hard right now to gain
as a business, right? But as a business model, you want something sustainable. You don't want to just give a team for the sake of giving a team, right, and then having them be god awful, and then to what effect,
good
right?
Facilities, you need good owners, you need good investors. Right, Sandra, exactly. What about you, Sandra? What do you think? Cap of a team?
I don't know if there's going to be an official cap on the team, but I'm with Cupo in the sense that like there needs to be like a nice round number to stop, and just because I'm almost like fixated on the number. I'll just go 2 less. I'll say 18. I think I'm in 100% agreement with there's some teams in NWSL that still need to kind of level themselves out a little bit. And in that sense, there's that mentality of making sure that what is in front of you is sustainable. And so expansion is fun. It's exciting. It always gets a lot of attention and a lot of chatter. It brings in a lot of numbers and valuations, and all of that is always fun and cool. But I think at a certain point, you do have to kind of hit, like as the league does from time to time, hit that reset button and check in with the landscape in front of you and make sure that things are, still going to continue to be sustainable. Coming out of this championship final, and Berman doing her kind of state of the league and talking about expansion herself, I'm going to just be frank and say, I didn't like that she used the MLS comparison with NWSL. She referenced that league, referenced the fact that there's 30 teams there and that maybe that's something that they're keeping an eye on. Hate it. Didn't like it. Not for it.
I hate that. Agreed.
It's ambitious. And I think who doesn't love ambition? And you should absolutely have a healthy dose of ambition when you're trying to grow a league like NWSL, but you also have so many examples of your own history within women's soccer to make sure that you have to
keep it competitive.
Part stability. Yeah.
You have to keep it competitive. And the MLS doesn't have another tier 1 division 1 competitor. The NWSL has that now with the USL Super League. That is a tier 1 division 1 professional league in America. And there are 8 teams in there, also with expansion to come for the next year. So you could think about it as like the MLS technically does have 30 teams, professional teams already right now between the Super League and the NWSL. What is that? 14 plus 8. Like we're there. We're already there at the professional leagues to keep the competitiveness and the parity so tight. I think 16 is the max NWSL clubs that we need to have for one conference. Once we're
all in agreement, it's an even number then, Lisa.
Yeah. 29 MLS.
Odd numbers are the devil.
But 16 is the amount of teams before you have to split conferences. Once you go over 16, I think we need 2 different conferences, the East and the West. And that's when competitions like the Challenge Cup, whatever else they want to throw at us, will become a little bit more intriguing, because then you'll have teams playing cross conference, not Gotham playing the same North Carolina team 7 times in one season. Fair. That's what I'm going to say. I'm sticking at 16. Just don't get to like 30 like that. Yeah.
That's insane.
We don't want to be
anything
like
over 20 is nuts.
We don't want to be like that. Okay, next question. Next question. We're moving on. Paul Brown 2422 asks, what annual awards should the NWSL add to the mix? He does give some examples: most improved, comeback player of the year. Sandra, did you write about this? Do you already do this? Come on, give us. What other awards should the NWSL have?
I did. I was so high on this. Paul Brown See Into the Future, that I wrote about it way back in May. I was like, it's definitely already time for some new awards, just because I really loved what the 2024 season was giving. It was giving so much. And I'm like, we definitely need to get some more individual end of year awards. 100% agree. Newcomer needs to exist. 100% most improved needs to exist, in my opinion. But I'm ready to get into the weeds of executive culture. I'd love to see an executive of the year award as well. And I kind of threw out there in the article that I did earlier in May that maybe some sort of unique award can be presented. I kind of referred to it as like a legacy player award that would, and you would have certain metrics that had to be met. Like a player had to be playing for a certain amount of time in the league. Like I think at least like 6 years, and like so a veteran type of player who perhaps is having a bit of an impact year. So I don't know, something unique and creative to NWSL. I'd like to be very specific for the league as well.
Newcomer award, I like legacy award, but having a cap at like 6 years in the league. Paul Brown, who asked this question, he's hanging with us right now on YouTube, and he said, "Yes, Sandra, I was channeling you when I wrote that question." A lot of people liking that question from Paul Brown. Guys, if you're with us on YouTube, you too can ask us questions. Let us know. Paul, good one. We're going to move on. We're going to keep rolling. There's a lot of questions we want to get to. This next one, question number 3, is from Cade Braham. excuse me, I'm trying here. They say build an NWSL free agency 5-a-side team and pick an available coach to lead your team. So we are going to do a combined 5-a-side. So between Sandra, Christine, and myself, and we're going to run through it. So Sandra, I'm going to let you start. Should we start with the players and then we'll do the coach at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with our players. Sandra, you are our captain, our leader here of the dodgeball team. You get to pick first. Who is your free agent that you're drafting?
Oh my goodness. I think I got to go with someone who can control the ball and pull some strings. I'm looking at Miura in this one. I love Narumi. I love me some Narumi with North Carolina Courage. I hope they re-sign that player. I think she is integral to what they do, and I think she'd be fantastic on our 5-a-side.
I love where your head's at, Sandra. She's on my list, girl.
Right.
She's on my list. She's on my list. Okay, Christine, you might queen her up next.
All right. I'm going to go with our Master of the Dark Arts, Becky Sauerbrunn.
Gotta get someone out there to sweep those balls up.
I wasn't expecting you to go with a defender.
I wasn't, dude. Do you know that that's the only defender I have on my list?
I was going to say, when I was going through the free agency list, I was like getting all these attackers. I have to pick some defenders because Christine's not going to come with any.
I know. Trust me, the rest are all like attackers and midfielders.
You know who I want to see in the midfield with Narumi, Sandra? Vanessa DiBernardo.
Oh, sick. Love it.
She can score, she can defend, she can combine, she can do it all. Vanessa, you're on our 5-a-side. Let's roll. All right, Sandra.
All right, let's go with an attacker. Let's go with an attacker here, or at least an attacking-minded player. We don't know what's going to happen with this player, although if we could predict it's going to go one way or the other. She's going to stay with her team or hang up the boots. We got to have Marta on this team. We got to have Marta on the 5-a-side. Come on.
Oh, that's hilarious. I knew you were going to pick her. That's a good one. Christine, you're up.
Are we going to have a goalkeeper on this team?
We don't need a goalkeeper.
I don't think there's any goalkeepers. Yeah, I mean, you just vibe. That's why I was like, we got Becky back there. What do we need anybody else for?
You don't need any goalkeepers. It's 5-a-side.
Yeah. Right. First of all, in my world, you just need a bunch of midfielders and vibes. So
you got. Take us home.
I'm gonna go. Oh, this was so hard for me because there's like two, and like one I feel like is great in attack and also defensively, so like more utility. But I'm gonna go with my heart and say Caroline.
Yes. I was gonna say if you don't
one,
pick
but
her,
two, Courage.
That juega bonito.
Let's go.
Okay, so we have on our roster Narumi, Sauerbrunn, Marta, Caroline, and DiBernardo. I think we're winning.
That's pretty stacked.
We're winning.
Yeah.
Now we get to pick a coach. I'm gonna take this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm picking Casey Stoney.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I thought it was available, coach. Like, does that mean like available?
She's available.
She's available.
She's not available.
So like meaning like they need a job. Like,
yeah.
She needs a job.
5-a-side Casey Stoney?
Sandra, what else is available?
We have such an attacking 5-side though. You want a defensive minded coach?
Yes, because we have an attacking minded. All right. Tell them how to defend.
All right.
Listen, I
thought you were going to say Fran Alonso.
I love Casey Stoney, and also she gained so much street cred with her recent tweet that was like only in football, and I was like, "Yo, my queen, where do I kneel?"
Oh, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Well, this is a pretty good team. I think we're winning. Thank you, Cade, for this question. We've got one more question to round out our mailbag segment. This one comes from Rom-Com Tom. Great name. If you could bring back any retired player to play in today's NWSL, who would you like to see? Sandra, I'm starting with you because you are our OG NWSL queen who has been to so many finals and been around the league for so long. You know all the retired NWSL players. Let us know.
I'm going to assume that this means like any retired player and we're getting them in this version of NWSL
right?
in their prime.
Yeah.
In their prime. So
I'm going to actually, I'm inspired by, still to this day, 2 weeks later, by the NWSL Championship final in KC. It was an incredible time. And one of the really cool things that I got to do was attend a Touch More's live show. And one of the things I really loved was that they put together like some of their ideal starting 11s for just national team based players. And there were some cheers for a lot of like from the local folks for their local Kansas City current players. And then there was a name that was dropped that got not any love, really. And we were in Kansas City, so I was expecting some cheers. But the name Amy LaPelbit was dropped. And I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't more recognition for her as someone who won not one but 2 championships with the former FC Kansas City current side, went on to eventually retire, become part of the assistant coaching staff at Utah Royals FC. I believe she's still coaching, but at the collegiate level. And this was a player that always did such cleanup. She had the tidiest feet. And I just thought she was so essential, a player that you never said a lot about because she was always doing her job. And I think in that moment, I felt, gosh, we really are losing some recipes here. Yeah. So I would love people to remember Amy LaPelbit, and I would bring her back in the NWSL today.
Which team would you want her to play with?
Please, I would desperately have her at Chicago because they need that type of midfielder. So come on through.
Okay, I like that. Christine, what about you? Retired players that would be in their prime playing in today's NWSL.
I'm like, who can I pick that will surprise you guys? See, I've already got a defender. I'm going to go Julie Ertz.
Oh, that was mine.
Really?
Yeah.
We're not too far removed from her either. It's like very realistic.
I mean, yes, but like her in her prime. Also, like, imagine her back in, what's now the Chicago Stars. That would be a hell of a lot of promise.
Ooh,
I want to see Julie Ertz against Banda. That's what I want to see. That's immediately when I saw this question, that's where my mind went. What matchups do I want to see? And that's what I want to see.
Yeah, Julie Ertz had so much of that dog in her. And I miss that. I miss that ilk of player. I feel like we don't really have too many of them in the league right now, but like her in her prime, just like eating those tackles. Yeah.
Some other players that came to my mind, Abby Wambach. I would want to see her in the mix with some of these teams and what she could do aerially in the box with her aerial presence. In our chat right now on YouTube, a lot of people are saying Lauren Holiday.
Sick.
Abby Wambach got some shouts as well. Who else? I'm trying to read through. There's
another Kansas City legend for sure. Let's get Cheney back. Holiday.
Heyo got a shout somewhere. That's a pretty good one. I would like to see her. Honestly, any of these players could ball in the NWSL. It would be fun to see them. Guys, I love these questions. Thanks for sending them in to us. If you have questions for us, let us know at Attacking Third across our socials. We're on YouTube. Leave us comments anywhere you can, and maybe we'll answer them in our next mailbag segment. But don't go anywhere. In case you missed it, we've got news and notes coming up next. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. In case you missed it, our news and notes segment filling you in on everything you might have missed around the world of women's football. Big news earlier this week out of our West Coast team, San Diego Wave. They have announced that President Jill Ellis stepped down from her role. Then immediately following that announcement, FIFA announced the appointment of Jill Ellis as Chief Football Officer. So in this role, she'll serve as part of an executive management team, quote, driving development and implementation of FIFA's global strategy. I don't know what that means. And also it says her responsibilities will include key technical areas connected to development of the game across the world. Is this fishy, Sandra? Is this at all questionable? What are your thoughts on this move?
I mean, I think anytime there's it's a newly created role. I think anytime something is just like created for someone else, there's always going to be a layer of like suspicion, like don't look suspicious, but like there's like always that you're like, okay, so they just like made a title up and here we go. But there's also going to be a contingent of folks that look at the role, they're going to look at the person and look at the success, right, and the titles, and say that sure, that makes sense. I think it's at this point there's a lot of reporting and knowledge about the fact that this is Jill Ellis, someone who was formerly with the Wave, and there were allegations of that were brought forth of a toxic work environment in which Ellis was the club president during this time. A third-party investigation was conducted earlier in the year. There was apparently found no evidence of violation of NWSL policies, and Ellis has called that allegations false. And then following that, there's still ongoing litigation. So I think that there's a layer of this that folks are gonna be suspicious about.
Yeah, there are a lot of fish emojis in our chat right now on YouTube. We'll keep you updated on what happens with Jill Ellis and where she goes from here and what her job actually entails once we find out about it. U.S. Soccer has named their nominees for its 2024 End of the Year Awards. It recognizes the top performers across all national teams. I'm going to read them off. Sandra, Christine, you just have to give me one name of who you pick because we're running out of time here. No preamble, no explanation. The 2024 U.S. Soccer Female Player of the Year nominees: goalkeeper Alyssa Naeher, defender Naomi Girma, who is the reigning champion, and forwards of Triple Espresso: Trinity Rodman, Sophia Smith, and Mallory Swanson. Sandra.
Alyssa Naeher.
Girma.
Alyssa Naeher, I'm going with. She's a goalkeeper. She has to. Young Female Player of the Year nominees: defender Trinity Armstrong and Jordan Bugg, midfielders Kennedy Fuller and Claire Hutton, and forward Allie Sentnor. Christine?
Claire Hutton.
Claire Hutton. Dang, Sandra. Second annual Game of the Year nominees: the U.S. Women's National Team 1-0 victory over Brazil to clinch its record 5th Olympic gold medal. The U.S. Women's National Team 4-1 win against Germany. That was in the group stage of the Olympics. And then the U.S. Women's Deaf National Team 11-0 dominant dub against Australia. That was a friendly back in June. Sandra?
Gold medal. Got to go with the gold.
Gold.
Brazil.
Yeah, gold against Brazil. Okay, some other news out of U.S. soccer. Carli Lloyd, longtime U.S. Women's National Team forward and midfielder, has been elected to the U.S. National Soccer Hall of Fame. She was a first ballot Hall of Famer. She's won 2 Women's World Cup titles, 2 gold medals, in which she scored the 2 game-winning goals in those matches, a lot of other awards, and a decade-long career. And this was the first year that Lloyd was eligible for the Hall of Fame. In NWSL news, some changes that have happened. Houston Dash signed midfielder Delaney Sheehan through 2026 season. Seattle Reign have announced that they have signed free agent defender Madison Curry through the 2027 season. She was a rookie this past year with Angel City. Angel City announced that Japanese goalkeeper Hannah Stambach has agreed to a new 1-year contract with the club through 2025. Chicago Stars, Sandra, shout out to you. They've signed Spanish midfielder Maitani from Gotham FC. And Boston, one of the new expansion teams set to join in 2026. They've announced the club's first ever GM. It's Dome Gouache. He arrives at the Boston club coming over from Barcelona. They were 3-time UEFA Women's Champions League winners. He served as the head of management for women's football with Barcelona, but now he comes over to Boston. So Boston, BOS Nation, I guess that's what we're calling them.
Do we have to? Can we just give them a cute nickname?
We've already said they're going to rebrand, so we just got to see where it goes from here. Woof! Okay, that was our In Case You Missed It. This was fun, guys. Final thoughts for the people, Sandra, on this Thursday before we leave them beautifully for the weekend.
Just like, subscribe, and follow, folks. We appreciate you so much. If you want to come here and join in on the fun, staying on the fun, if you want to come get your hater on, come get your hater on. We embrace all of it. Come through.
We do.
Love you, chat. Come back. See you soon, smooches.
If anyone doesn't know, Christine joins the chat while we're on this show. She comments.
She's the one. She's the one taking those hits.
It's crazy how she multitasks like that, but she does a great job at it. So come next time if you're listening as a pod, join us on YouTube. We'll be live on Monday at 11 a.m. We're right back at it. You can talk live with Christine Cupo. I'm just gonna, advertise.
Let's get into it.
Thanks, guys. Have an awesome weekend. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you follow Attacking Third wherever you get your podcast. Leave us 5-star rating and review. And also, you can watch us on YouTube, on Galazzo Network for all your women's football coverage. For Sandra, Christine, and Mark, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.